Hi folks, thanks for dropping by. Today I just wanted to give you a catch up on my latest fantasy goings on, mostly painting, a little bit of RPG, but first of all I wanted to show you our new banner for We Want the Gold. This just arrived the other day, so we're just hanging it up to get the creases out, you know, where they're rolled in the tube to post, they can pick up a few creases. But really pleased with this. This is my wife's design, and this is basically the figure that's going to be on the cover of the book. As far as that goes, we've got the first PDF proof ready now. We're just working through that. Probably be 2 or 3 proofs at least, I would think. We've got another test game coming up on Monday at Bedford Gladiators, which is why I'm in such a rush to paint up some figures. So yeah, it's looking good for a September release at the moment, all being well. And I will be shooting some videos. Of course, I'll put a battle report up of Monday's game, and I am going to be doing a series of videos with this lovely splendid chap in the background on how the game is played, taking you through all the various rules and all that kind of stuff. So that's that. In my own RPGing, I'm still involved in the Rollmaster campaign and the Cult campaign. That's Darren on a Monday and Ove on the Thursday, both going very well. The Rollmaster, we're back out of the city again. We've spent quite a bit of time in the city, getting some different jobs of not always strictly legal things, but you know, that's the life of an adventurer. But now we're heading back out into the wilds. We're actually tracking down a merchant who we think might be responsible for feeding young villagers to skeletons. Yeah, sounds a bit gruesome, doesn't it? And it was. It was very gruesome. However, still nowhere near as gruesome as Cult, which is, of course, a modern-day horror RPG, and that is certainly ramping up now. That is really delivering on the gruesome front, but also with a great investigation mechanic as well. So, as I said in my previous talk about Cult, it's kind of like Call of Cthulhu. It's quite a contrast in some ways as well. So, still really enjoying both of those. But let's get to the figures. 2 lots of figures. There's 28 mils, a batch of which I've got to get finished painted up for Monday, as I mentioned. And then also, because we've started phase 2 of the Bane Wars fantasy campaign, I've got a ton of 10 mils to paint as well. And I've got some new ones just come in, so we'll have a look at those at the end. But let's start with the 28 mils. In terms of manufacturers, mostly I've been picking stuff up at shows like Partisan or locally in Bedford, and also at Hobby Hive, our shop in Bedford, but also by mail order as well, because sometimes there's some specific things that you just can't find, you know. But let's look at the Boris Hotch first. I'm going with the slap chop method for these. As you see, these have all been undercoated black and then dry brushed with grey. I'm trying that method. These are mostly adventurers, and these are all for We Want the Gold, pretty much. There's a few nice monsters as well. There's some excellent ghouls, for example. And Boris Hotch do a really wide range of, well, they're advertised as dungeon figures, dungeon adventurers, you know. But of course they're suitable for any setting, really. Now, the next lot are a mixture of figures I sent away for, checkpoint miniatures, in particular the deep ones, and also some I picked up at Partisan from Crooked Dice, and I also went on their site and ordered some bits and pieces as well. Crooked Dice, excellent range of figures, a lot of really good personality figures, particularly if, like me, you grew up on 60s and 70s television. And for these, I'm trying something different. I've underpainted them in white, and I'm just going to go with speed paint to see how that works out, because I'm up against it time-wise a little bit. And I thought for the deep ones, I'd use Army Painter Algae Green. Is it Algae or Algae? Wasn't Algae in Biggles? Algae Green. He was a friend of Biggles, I think. Anyway, that's the paint I'm using, because I use this for my large star spawn of Cthulhu that you will have seen recently, and that worked very well. And what I'm finding with this is one coat pretty much does it. All I have to do after that one coat is put some pale grey on the eyes and on the teeth. I've got these cultists as well. They're going to be possibly forming part of the game on Monday. And for those, I'm going with Citadel Carroburg Crimson. I did a couple of coats on this just to get the correct finish, then just touched up the flesh and the belts and one or two other bits and pieces. So, you know, they were done pretty quick. In fact, that's probably the quickest I've painted some figures in a long time. And really that's down to the speed paint. And of course, all of these are going into Monday's game, which is our third and probably final play test of We Want the Gold. And it seemed only fitting for the third and final one to set it in Innsmouth, which of course ties in nicely with my Innsmouth build, which is still ongoing. But the buildings are all done now. I've just got to start work on the cobbles and one or two other things as well. So it's a nice test outing for the Innsmouth build as well. I'll get some photos of that, and of course I'll get the report filmed for that last test play as well. And here are our Deep One figures, finished and based, starting with the priest there. So these are the Crooked Dice and Checkpoint Miniatures figures. And yeah, very easy to paint using that speed paint, just a couple of little dabs for the eyes and teeth, and they're done. And here's our local shopkeeper. I do love that figure. She'll definitely be making an appearance in the next game. In what capacity, I'm not sure, but we shall see. So here's the rest of the figures. Mostly Boris Hotch, except for that big plant monster, which I got on Etsy, I think. I can't remember the name of the trader at the moment, but I will put the link up in the notes below. And then we've got our cultists, some nice skeletons. You can't go wrong with a good skeleton figure, and some varied adventurers. Yeah, I think that plant monster, we're going to be calling that Audrey, I would imagine. So, on to Bane Wars. Phase 2. Phase 1 was the exploration. Phase 2 is conquest. This is where each of the clans is now reinforcing their armies. We've got their army of exploration out, as well as their existing army of exploration in the field. Each clan now gets an extra 1,200 points to spend on the army of conquest. That is going, of course, by the Fantastic Battles rule set, which is the rule set we've been using now for a while. That's our favoured rule set for Fantasy Battles. It really is excellent. But of course, from the gamer's perspective, building new armies means buying more figures. Let's have a look. And here's those 10mm figures as well. These are forming part of my army for the next phase of Bane Wars. So we've got some extra units of wolves and ghouls and bats for my vampire army. These are all from Warpaint figures, and they're Forest Dragon as the original design. And I believe Forest Dragon are withdrawing all their licenses. So I'm not sure what's happening there, if the company is going or if they're still going to provide figures direct themselves. I'm not sure. But that would be a great shame, because Forest Dragons really are excellent design. Really, when I first got these, when I first got into 10mm, they had the same level of detail, if not more, than the 25mm figures I've been painting back in the day. And of course, I tried to paint them in the same way and soon learnt very quickly that you have to take a different approach with 10mm. So these, along with the figures I bought a couple of months back now, form the main part of my new vampire army. Still got a few more units to come as well, some human thralls as well, but that is pretty much that army built now. And one other thing I'd just like to mention with Warpaint figures is, with that order, they sent me a free figure. This sort of personality piece. This is great. This is a necromancer riding in a chariot made of largely bones, being pulled by zombies. So it's almost like they read my mind. If they'd have said to me, what sort of command figure would you like, then I think that would be pretty much it. So thanks to Warpaint figures, really good service, and of course I'll put their link in the notes below as well. Alright, so I'm quite pleased with myself in having got all those figures painted up this week. It's been a while since I've done some painting. What with the Innsmouth build and various other things going on, I've not had so much time for painting. I have reorganised the shed slightly as well to make it a bit easier for filming and painting. I'll put something up about that maybe in the next week or so. In the meantime, keep an eye out for that Bane Wars report. That should be coming up next week. I've just uploaded the background to turn 0 of that campaign, which is our diplomacy and espionage phase before we get into the military side proper. And of course, if you want to make sure you don't miss anything that's uploaded, please do click the subscribe button below. That really does help the channel grow as well. Okay, thanks again. As always, do keep your questions, comments and suggestions coming in. Always welcomed. And I'll see you soon.